Today we complete our teams in the Pacific Division for our NHL GM Report Card Series. So today we analyze the GM's Pat Verbeek's trades, his signings, his draft work, and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today we're taking a look at the Anaheim Ducks and their offseason moves and giving a report card to GM Pat Verbeek. The Anaheim Ducks were not overly busy this offseason. They made a couple of minor trades, signed a lot of internal pieces that needed new deals, and really that was about it. They were pretty quiet in free agency. Some of the bigger trades we thought we might see did not happen, and well, we'll take a look at what they've done here. So it's not like a ton of work here to kind of analyze, but the two trades we did see, I have no problem with. They picked up veteran defenseman Brian Dumoulin from Seattle for a 2026 fourth round pick. So the Kraken were trying to make some moves, and essentially Dumoulin moving on was basically a salary cap move for them. So the Ducks take advantage and get a cheap price on a veteran defenseman. They also picked up Robby Fabbri from Detroit, along with a fourth round pick in next year's draft for prospect Gage Alexander. So again, Detroit was looking to move salary. That was a cap dump for them. So Pat Verbeek takes advantage of his old buddy Steve Yzerman and gets Robby Fabbri from Detroit, along with a pick for a prospect that they're happy to move on from. So all in all, those two trades, I have no problem with them. Obviously, they're not monumental deals. They're not really deals that are going to really move the needle on the team's overall success rate, but they're fine. And I don't have any issues with them either. They didn't give up much, and they got a couple of veterans who can certainly kind of help insulate a little bit the young players around this team. Signing-wise, let's take a look at some moves there. They really only brought in one player from the outside. That was Jansen Harkins. Gets a 2-year deal just above league minimum. Otherwise, they re-signed Isaac Lundestrom, 1 year, $1.5 million. Brett Leeson comes back on a 1-year deal, $1.05 million. Urho Vakanainen, 1 year, $1.1 million. And then after that, they signed Jackson Lacombe, 2 years at $925, and Nikita Nesterenko, 1 year at $875. So, like, really nothing too earth-shattering. Of course, they got their new draft picks from the first round of the 24 NHL draft. Beckett Seneca and Stan Solberg both got their ELCs made official. And that kind of sums up the work of Pat Verbeek. There really wasn't a ton happening. So if you take a look at their addition subtraction, if you will, you have coming in, you got Dumoulin and Fabbri via trade, Harkins as a signing. Going out, Jacob Silfverberg retires, and they did not bring back Max Jones or Bo Gruel. So Gruel and Jones were former, fairly high draft picks of the team that kind of put through their early parts of the years of their career, and the team felt like they could move on from them, which was fine. Bring in a couple of veterans that can kind of fill those spots, if you will. And it's pretty simple. All the contracts that they signed for their remaining, somewhat younger players, they're all short term. Harkins gets the second year in free agency, but Lundestrom, Leeson, Vakanainen, Nesterenko, all 1-year deals. Lacombe gets a 2-year deal. Like, nothing earth shattering. There's nothing, like I said, that's, you can't critique it much because it's pretty short-term, low risk, not a ton of money. So you're probably looking at a lineup for the Ducks this coming year of, you're probably looking at a top 6 that would involve guys like Leo Carlsson, Alex Killorn, Troy Terry, Frankie Vetrano, Trevor Zegras, Cutter Gauthier. Those are probably going to be the 6 guys. But then you have Mason McTavish. The way Daily Face-Off does the line projections, they have McTavish right now on the third line. And it kind of depends on how they want to how they want to kind of spread things out, if you will. I'm not sure how Coach Cronin will want to do that. But to me, McTavish is a top 6 player all day long, but some of these other young players they have there as well. I mean, you could easily move, maybe because Ryan Strome is on the team, they have him on the wing with McTavish on the third line with Fabbri. You could easily move Strome to the middle. Maybe either Killorn or Gauthier go down to the third line. McTavish is more established, and maybe he moves up. Either way, you've got more than enough players capable of playing top 6 minutes. You've got some decent veterans with Fabbri, Strome, etc., who can play on the third line. Brett Leeson, Isaac Lundestrom, Brock McGinn are probably going to be some combination of that will be your fourth line. The back end, you're looking at Zellweger will hopefully get a bigger role. Guys like Zellweger and Mitnikov obviously take steps last year, and you want to see that continue. Cam Fowler, Radko Gudas, Lacombe, Dumoulin are likely going to be your top 6. You get Vakanainen in the mix there as well. He'll certainly push for some minutes too. So you've got 3 out of your top 6 defensemen are still reasonably young. So they've obviously, can grow with this group. So all in all, Pat Verbeek probably felt like he didn't have to do a ton. And for the most part, he's probably right, because you want to see this group grow with the pieces that you've been able to draft and develop and acquire, in a case like a Cutter Gauthier, at a very young age before he ever played in the NHL. Do you really need a much more of a veteran addition? In some ways, you can make an argument they do, and in some ways, you say, well, maybe they want to see what this group can grow as. Like last year, they were more active, like we saw recently, Vetrano and Killorn get decent free agent deals, but there's still some players there that you kind of wonder what the future holds. So for me, more of the critiquing of Pat Verbeek is what didn't happen. We still haven't seen a John Gibson trade. Trevor Zegras was rumored to be in the rumor mill all year for a trade. Never happened. So Zegras, I understand the rationale around it is that he's a good player, but not necessarily the style of player that they'd really like to see for the identity they're trying to create as the Anaheim Ducks right now. Obviously, he's more of a skill player, but doesn't play with much of an edge. He's not real big, obviously like McTavish and Gauthier, etc. They're much bigger. Even Leo Carlsson's not a huge guy either, but he's more of a two-way player. So you get stronger both ends of the ice. So they certainly really like Leo Carlsson. But the thing with me is you didn't see Gibson traded. You didn't see Zegras traded. On all honesty, Beckett Seneca at 3rd overall, I think it was too high. I like this prospect. I did a lot of research on a lot of the prospects going into the draft, like I always do. I talk about prospects on my channel here all year long. As the year gets further and further into it, I have, try to make more and more time to watch some clips or highlights, or in some cases full games. It just depends, right? Where these players play. Some guys I have an easier time watching than others. And Seneca, I really thought was probably more in that I could see him going into the top 10. I know he was a high riser as the year went on, but I do have concerns over his offensive game kind of translating to the NHL. I'm not saying he's going to be a bust. I don't think that. I just think for what they could have had, they could have taken Ivan Demidov. To me, that was the no-brainer pick. So I don't know. I just think they kind of went off the board a little bit here with this pick, and not that he won't be a good player. I just think that there's going to be some other guys that went a few spots after him that could have been a tremendous pick instead, right? So, Iginla was there, Demidov was there, some of these D, and I know they have a lot of decent D, besides Zellweger and Mityukov and Lacombe that are in your top 6, you still got, guys like Luno as well, fighting for ice time as well. So, at the end of the day, I get it. You have lots of D, but is some of those guys better than what you have? You still have to make that move, right? And I'm not suggesting that they definitely should have taken a D. I just don't know that Seneca was the guy. And time will tell. He was completely and utterly shocked. He didn't think he would go that high either. So to me, I think they might have been able to make better use of the pick, to be completely honest. They didn't move on from Gibson. They really need to give Lucas Dostal the net. If they're going to move Zegras, just find a way to move him already. So to me, my gripe with Anaheim isn't so much about what they did this year. I'm giving Pat Verbeek a grade of a C+, because I think they could have done better with the 3rd overall pick. They didn't move on from John Gibson. The Zegras move, I don't think it's something they have to do, but it's, it's been out there for so long and it hasn't happened. The signings they made were fine. They bring in a few veterans, but they really didn't do anything to really push the team forward. And in my opinion, this Ducks team should be further along. So I guess part of why I'm dragging that grade down, it might be a little bit for me that I'm not content with the full body of work since he's been there and even beyond. If you look back, since this team has been kind of been near the bottom of the standings and picking high, they have had since 2019, so that encompasses 2019, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So that's 6 drafts. They've had 10 first-round picks. That's a lot of first-rounders. They've picked in the top 10 6 times. So they're averaging a top 10 pick every year for 6 years. Like, that's a lot. Going back to 2019, obviously was the Zegras draft. They got him at 9th overall. At 2020, they had Jamie Drysdale, who was then traded for Cutter Gauthier. So a number 6 overall pick. They had 27th overall, Jacob Perreault. That one has not worked out. In 2021 was the McTavish draft. They got him at 3rd overall. He's working out so far. In 2022, they had picks 10 and 22. Was Mitnikov and Gauthier. And then, of course, in 23, they get Leo Carlson, 2nd overall. And then in 24, of course, they get Seneca and Stan Solberg. So I just think with the number of top 10 picks and first-round picks that they've had since 2019, this team should be further along. Last year, they were still one of the worst in the league. It's time for this team to take a step forward. It's time for this team to have some more wins and change the culture. That it's, some of these guys, now look at guys like Troy Terry. Hasn't really experiencing much winning, but he's been there a while. Even McTavish is going on like 3 years now, right? Like it's time for this team. So for me, if you look at the whole body of work, not just Verbeek, but even before Verbeek, I just don't know that this team has really done enough. They already got their goalie of the future, who was Lucas Dostal, drafted in 2018. He definitely outplayed Gibson last year. So they have that piece. On top of those first rounders, they also got guys like Zellweger, Luno, and Lacombe, all some 3 defensemen who are going to play decent games for them this year that are all 2nd round picks. So they've done reasonably well with their picks. Outside of Jacob Perreault, Nathan Gauthier is, at that point where we hope to see a step from him this year. But a lot of these guys are working out, or they're still too early to tell. But they're just not moving the needle forward. Year after year, they still have not improved. So, all in all, like I said, I'm grading Verbeek a C+. But I think we need to see more. I think he needs to, throughout this year, find a way to move Gibson. If you're going to move Zegras, try to find that trade and help this team take a step forward. I think they need to they need to come on strong here and show that they can turn the corner and re-energize the fan base and make things more interesting. I just really think it's time. That's a long time now of drafting and developing. So let me know what you think. Like I said, C+ for me on Verbeek, but there really wasn't a ton of activity. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more activity and maybe make another move that was more of a push the team forward type of thing. Obviously, having a full year of Cutter Gauthier should help. They made a few other minor additions here. Leo Carlson played on an odd schedule last year, so he should be a full-timer this year. So, all in all, there's a decent amount of pieces there to like. I just think they need to really insulate and build around them and help take this thing forward. So let me know what you think on the Ducks in the comment section. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll be back with the teams now coming up in the Central Division coming up next. And, of course, all the news and rumors around the entire NHL every day. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.